I'm sure a lot of you people were expecting me to do a live stream today. That's what I was going to do for Halloween 2. I was going to do a live stream and express my opinions about Halloween 2 from 1981 live on YouTube, and it would also be the first time I would return to live streaming. But because of my internet and because of how and how my electric company in my town is trying to fix it up a little bit, I am sadly going to have to postpone the live streaming again because my internet is being a pain in the butt. So you're sadly going to have to get this premiere. Like I said, I'm sorry, I really am. I really wanted to live stream again, but until then, until like the Wi-Fi gets better, it's gonna have to be hold off again. So I'm sorry, and I hope this premiere will make it up for that. So, with that out of the way, let me talk about Halloween 2 from 1981. It was released on this day 40 years ago. Since, Halloween has already turned 40 years old, it's now like 43, I think. The first movie, I mean. This one is now 40 years old, and this is one of the first sequels that was ever made for Halloween. It was one of the first sequels, and in my opinion, I thought this film was okay. It's not a perfect sequel. It's not as good as the first movie, which, to be honest, the first movie was a classic because, I mean, it was John Carpenter. Come on, it was John Carpenter. You can't go wrong with John Carpenter. Um, and I think the biggest thing about this movie being so obviously different from the first one is that it takes place in a hospital. Laurie is in shock, and Dr. Loomis is going around still trying to let people is basically he's trying to find Michael. And the biggest connection with this film to the first one is that it takes place on the same night, surprisingly, which I thought was pretty good. I mean, it's not as perfect as anything else, but I mean, it's something. It's at least entertaining to see something like that happen in the movie. Jamie Lee Curtis and Donald Pleasance return in the film. They were awesome as always, but it's kind of disappointing for Jamie Lee Curtis because she didn't really do that much in the film, and it kind of made me upset. I kind of wish they could have like played her up a little bit, made her actually uh, like fight off Michael, like how they did in the 2018 version of Halloween. Because like the Halloween 2018 was pretty good because they actually made Laurie more badass and kicking butt and everything. Like she wants to get Michael, but in this movie she's kind of limping around. She's always falling asleep. She's not really doing much, which is kind of disappointing. She doesn't really do much that she doesn't do that much since and it's just disappointing, and I kind of wish they could have at least let her fight back with Michael, and she kind of did near the end when Michael's blind and he's swinging a scalpel around. I thought that was pretty good. Donald Pleasance, he was pretty good. I loved him as Dr. Loomis as always. And of course Michael Myers, he was pretty good. Even though I kind of feel like they could have done a little better with him. I feel like they should have at least made him more threatening. I mean, in a way, I mean, like in the first movie, he was pretty much threatening enough because he was just this unknown killer who just came into this neighborhood, and he was just killing people for no reason. Like he was just killing babysitters, and that was what made it so terrifying. But in this movie, they make this dumb explanation that Michael is Laurie's brother, or Laurie is Michael Myers' sister. Honestly, when I heard that, I thought that was just the dumbest thing I ever heard. Like when I heard it as a kid, I thought it was pretty cool because maybe that's why Michael went after Laurie. But then I see it again as an adult, and I'm kind of like, this is kind of dumb. Like the reason why Michael worked in the first movie was because he was unknown. There was no reason why he killed people. He just did it. Uh, and I think that's what made it so scary. It's like the less you know about a killer or a monster or anything, the scarier it makes, and that is what makes a true horror movie. But, this is a sequel, and they had to come up with some kind of stuff. Um, the music in this was pretty cool too. It was composed by John Carpenter, obviously. I love the synth sound that it has. It sounds awesome. I love it. I mean, don't get me wrong, I love the first movie's soundtrack, but this one I love the most because it has like that synth sound to it. And I don't know if you all know, but I'm really into EDM, and that obviously may come as a surprise because, I listen to a lot of Dead Mouse, Rezz, Savant is another artist, and John Carpenter, man, he knocks it out of the ballpark with his music. I actually just recently started listening to his music, and it is awesome. I love it. Um, the kills in this movie were they were pretty gory. I mean, obviously, like I said, it's a sequel. They had to amp it up a little bit. In the first movie, there was not that much blood, to be honest. There wasn't. I don't even think there was any blood at all. Well, then again, there may have been. I just didn't see it. But in this movie, the second one, this one, they amped it up very high. There's a part where like one baby where there's like a woman, I think it's a babysitter. I could be wrong. She goes to investigate. Like she sees a door open. Michael pops up and stabs her in the neck. Even though you don't see the knife stab, you see the blood splash up her neck a little bit. Like wow, that was something. Then there's a part in the hospital where the guy finds one of the nurses, and she has like this hole punched in her arm, and it's leaking blood onto the floor. Like I thought that was just so gruesome. Like having all the blood drained out of your body is just terrifying. It didn't really make my skin crawl. It just made me kind of question like how did Michael do something like this? It doesn't make any sense. Then there was the hammer kill, where the one where Michael like jams a hammer into the police officer's head. I thought that one was pretty cool. It was pretty awesome. Even you actually saw the hammer go into his head. That's probably the only kill in the movie where you see an object go into somebody's head or something. As for the way of how like the movie looked was pretty good. I liked how, they actually tried to make it look like how it was in the first movie. Like, you had like the behind shot where like the camera followed Michael, and then of course there was the infamous POV shot, and it was okay. I like how the film looked. It looked like a John Carpenter film, but even though he didn't direct this movie, it was actually directed by a guy named Rick Rosenthal, who didn't really do a bad job directing, to be honest. I think he did a pretty good job directing this film, which is kind of strange. Because, like, in the first movie, it was directed by John Carpenter. I think it was directed and produced by him. I could be wrong. But, of course, there's Rick Rosenthal, who directed this one because I don't really think John Carpenter had the intentions of making a sequel, surprisingly. Uh, because, like the first one was fine enough as it was, and I think he may have been forced to make a sequel because, you know, people love Michael Myers, because why not? Um, Now I'm about to get into some spoilers, so if you haven't seen Halloween 2, then you may want to skip over to this part. Just skip to this time code right here. So near the end, if it really matters to anybody, Michael ends up chasing Laurie and Dr. Loomis. Dr. Loomis obviously ends up coming to save the day again. Uh, they go to what looks like a boiler room. I think that's what it is. Well, not a boiler room. It's like a room in the back of the hospital. Michael breaks down the door. Loomis tries to shoot him. The gun's not loaded. Michael stabs Loomis. Uh, he falls over. Lori, who has a gun now that Loomis gave her, she ends up shooting Michael in the eyes when he comes near her, and he ends up swaying the scalpel around, very silly like, may I say. Uh, they turn on some gas valves. Lori runs out, and Loomis sacrifices himself by burning the entire place up alive. The room explodes. Michael walks out of the fire, on fire, may I add. He falls over and he dies. At least that's how he was supposed to die. And then the next day comes, it's morning, it's November 1st, and Laurie gets into an ambulance where I guess she's escorted to another hospital, maybe, I'm not sure. And that's it. That's the end of the movie. We see Laurie's face, like she'll be shocked forever. And then finally, we see Michael burning again, and that's it. The movie just ends like that. I'll be honest, this movie, it's not perfect. It's a mediocre sequel, to be honest. Like, Halloween 2, I mean, say whatever you want about it. If you don't like the sequel, that's fine. If you love it, that's cool. If you like it, that's alright. But in my opinion, I have sort of a love. I kind of like it, but I also kind of hate it. I like that they tried something different. I like that they tried to give it like a different feel. Like they tried to give Michael this sort of like backstory, and they tried to expand on the Michael Myers universe, but it kind of didn't work. I think like I said before, the less you know about him, the more it makes it scary, and that's what makes a horror movie work. um, but I also kind of hate this movie because I feel like they kind of ruined Halloween at this point because we're still getting sequels. Even if you admit that okay, these sequels have got to get tiring. Like if you like the other sequels, that's okay. Like maybe some of you like Halloween 6, maybe some of you like Halloween H2O, maybe you like Halloween 5, maybe you even like Halloween 2018. Maybe you even like the Rob Zombie remake of Halloween, or heck, you even like the sequel. But in my eyes, I really kind of wish the sequels kind of didn't exist, but I kind of like that they tried to keep Michael alive, and boy did they do a good job on that. They just kept coming and coming and coming, and it was just wow. Um, So my final thoughts on Halloween 2, it's not a perfect sequel. It's definitely definitely not the best, but it's okay. It's a decent sequel that I would definitely recommend to people who are curious. Uh if you're curious to know how the show or how the movie was or how the series was supposed to end, then check this one out. If not, then just stick with the first movie. Overall, movie's okay. It has some good moments. Pretty average. It's mediocre. That's all I got. So yeah. So happy Halloween. Hope you all get some nice candy. And yeah. See you guys next time.